Hello and welcome again. Today we are going to be doing chapter 38. So then, chapter 38. 1049. The wolf stalked through the trees around the army. The air smelled of death and blood. Another battle had been fought recently. He crouched by a small rise of earth, and the scent of the dirt filled his awareness. He was overcome with an empowering sense of presence in this place. The magic drink often had that effect for days after their taking. Fitbjorn had taken the blood of the wolf in the last ritual, though it had not been a warrior Ulfhedna ritual. Rather, it had been a welcoming of the wolf's hugr. The mind of the wolf helped to guide his awareness and lend swiftness to his hamra. He'd need both tonight. Tonight, however, he did not wear any parts of his father's cloak. He wore the skin of the wolf upon him, embodying the spirit of the beast, the huge animal that had died in sacrifice to save his life. The small port town before him was quiet. The sun was not yet up, but by this time each summer, the sun's early presence made everything a cool, almost light. There were 30 horses below. Some were most likely stores for trade, but houses. But there were few people about. The other notable feature here were the docks filled with ships and the great hall. It was called King's Seat, as Harold had wanted this port town of Onslow to grow into a respected trading port, and so far it appeared to be doing just that. To his side, Fitbjorn saw the wolf, the bear, and the cow, all still with him, and all still sharp and aware of the day's work. They all made silent eye contact and nodded at each other. Then they set off toward the town. There were no guards, and the army was far from here today, but the scent of blood still wafted up from somewhere. They reached the streets and stood like men do in an effort to draw less attention if they were seen. But they wouldn't need to worry about that until later. They passed by the hall without a glance. It was not what they hunted this morning, and made for the water's edge. When they arrived on the beach, they took a direction, and they looked around for any who might have seen them. The ships were in a special place of focus, as these would have the likeliest watch. Let's go, the wolf said, and they all fell in behind him for the store house nearest the docks. This place was certain to have a guard, so they approached silently. Any alarm would be death for them. I see a man, guardman. He looks asleep, said the bear. Fitbjorn turned to look at where Ragnar had indicated. That's probably what he's doing. They wouldn't be expecting an attack now. Still no chances. They all drew long daggers in quiet determination. The four men ducked behind a stack of crates covered in netting that had been placed on the beach to load in the morning, and they were about to move when their approach was complicated, as they saw a man come and wake the other. What are you sleeping? Asked the man in Norse. Their language might make the action they planned somewhat easier. No, the man said and stood, shaking himself. Gunnar, you can't sleep on this. You know you have to watch this chattel. Fitbjorn listened to the exchange, wishing they would be somewhat damned quieter. They have not moved all night. I told them if they were quiet, I would give them drink in the morning. The other man made an expression of amused incredulity. And have they made noises? Probably. I was sleeping, so I must guess that they did. Fitbjorn looked over at Ragnar, who looked at him with a disappointed expression. Then he nodded. Bastards, he breathed. Just sealed off their fate, they did. I'll go up onto the dock there and slip around to distract them a moment. That's all you'll need, innit? Aye, Fitbjorn, Niels, and Stephanos replied together. Right. Best get going, because here I go. He sheathed the dagger, then stood and walked from the crates to pull himself up onto the dock. He knew that he'd have some few seconds before the guards saw him while they were talking, and hoped this meant they wouldn't be looking at the crates when the other three left it. Oi, who's there? Asked the guard, who'd been named Gunnar. Damn it, Ragnar muttered under his breath. Hey there, lads, just out for a morning stroll. He spoke while trying to hide his accent as much as he could and didn't succeed too much. Ragnar walked along the edge of the dock and closed the 12-foot distance to both men in a matter of 4 steps, with his hands out to the sides. I don't know you. Where are you from? What are you doing here? Their postures showed them to be wary and openly suspicious of his presence. The other 3 started to move from the crate stack then, and Ragnar prayed they would go undetected. Who is there? Asked the guard called Gunnar. He turned at the shadows in the corner of his vision and saw them all walking from the crates. What? Who am I? Asked Fitbjorn, changing his stride to angle toward the man who asked. The other turned to see who his friend referred to and saw them walking up to him now. Raise an alarm. These are all enemies, said the first guard, and his hand went for his belt. Ragnar was close enough to hear him whisper this to Gunnar and leapt forward while drawing his dagger. He landed on the man and tried to bury the blade into him, but somehow he managed to step aside and instead they locked into a grapple. It was clear the man was skilled in fighting, however, as he tripped Ragnar and turned to throw him, but Ragnar was not caught so easily and held firm, making them both tumbled to the wooden deck. Stop! Gunnar yelled, turning, but in doing so he attracted Fitbjorn, Niels, and Stephanos to run faster and pull their knives. Gunnar tried and backed against the wall of the shorehouse in a momentary panic. Wait! Fitbjorn slammed into him and stabbed him in the chest up to the hilt with his dagger. He felt the tip poke into the wood beyond the man's body. The guard, who'd gone unnamed, turned and looked at Fitbjorn with shock and anger, and then further panic as he realized he was dying. Gah, fucker! Ragnar said in a pained grunt. Stephanos was on them then and pulled the guard named Gunnar by his neck using his knife. And then, when he was off Ragnar, cut to the side and threw the man down to die in the sand. Ragnar, are you hurt? Stephanos asked in his thick voice. Aye, better fighter than I looked. Stabbed me in the arm. Ragnar sat up, cradling his left bicep. Well, we'll wrap that in something. We have to get her out, Niels said. Fitbjorn searched the guards and soon found a thick iron ring with 3 keys on it and tested each. The door lock came open on the second key, and he pulled the door open. Skadhild, he asked into the room beyond. There were 5 people, all in rags, and sitting on the floor. Is that you, White Bear? Asked a familiar voice. It is. Come on, we have to go. The woman walked out. She wore no chains, but she was clearly lesser in size than when they'd last seen her. Niels and Steffi and Ragnar with you. I thought you were all dead. We are. Let's get the fuck out of here, Niels urged, looking around. Others may have heard that. Fitbjorn grabbed the back of one guard's clothing and pulled him into the room, throwing his body into a corner. Get the other, he ordered, and Stephanos followed with the next. And these sorry lots, she asked, referencing those still in the store. Aye, bring them. We only have 5 horses, but we can get them out of the city and give them a chance at least. I know it's not much. Skadhild beckoned them to follow, and the slaves came out into the early morning light with little timidity. They locked the door again, knowing full well the blood on the ground would have no mystery to what had occurred. But any time they could earn themselves would help. Fitbjorn tucked the keys onto his belt. Come on, Skadhild said, and they moved swiftly and quietly back the way they had come for the forest. They skirted around the houses and saw no more guards on their path, but still they knew it was a good idea to stay quiet. Wait, Skadhild said, stopping by him by the arm. What? Oh. She was pointing out a stall with 3 horses tied to it on the edge of the town. Yes, he said, and they made for them. Moments later, they'd loaded the weakest of the slaves onto the horses and made their flight from the town together. They met with their 5 other horses that were tied to trees in the woods. All stopped a moment and caught their breath, as they'd been running the last while. The tree line abutted the town closely, so there was no open ground to cover in their flight, but they still wanted to get distance from the place. 8 horses, and 9 of us. Not the worst number I have known. Never thought you for a man of numbers, Skadhild said, panting, and sitting against the tree trunk. But let us see if you know this one. How long have I been their captive and slave? A year and some, Niels replied. That is a long time to be a fucking slave. Why has it taken this long? Where the fuck were you? Did you get any of the others? You were the first we knew was still alive. Took us a long time to track you, Fitbjorn said. There were others after that fucking battle, she said, closing her eyes and leaning her head against the tree. I was separated from them. We were all split up. None of these here were ours, though. Who are you people? What are you talking about? Asked one of the slaves, who wore a rough spun blanket like a cloak. It is better you don't know. Fewer questions you can answer if you're caught, Ragnar said, flexing his left arm and putting a rag over the cut. This bloody hurts. Quit your bitching, Stephanos said, and everyone turned to him. It's nae that bad, surely. He spoke in what was a fair approximation of Ragnar's Scots accent, and all laughed at his stern expression. I have missed laughter, Skadhild said with a smile. There will be more time. Time for more. And drinking, but not now. Now, we need to leave this place and find somewhere they will not be able to find us. I know, White Bear. Harold is king now. He has too much to worry about now. Some few slaves missing is nothing to him, but we should go from here now. And will you come with us? Where will you go? Fitbjorn asked of the remaining slaves. Name a place, and if it is in our power, we will bring you home. I have no idea who you are, but I want to go back to Hedeby. Where are we? This place is all not known to me. First, we will rest here for a time. Eat and drink. I have a water with me, Niels offered from the saddlebag. And then we will go with you. But where are you going? I don't like my chances in the wilderness here alone, one of the slaves said. That's wise, Fitbjorn admitted. We will have to just stay together and be careful. When we've gone from this place and are well away, you can make a decision about what you want to do then. Why did we not take a ship? One of the younger slaves said. Takes too long to get underway. Don't know these waters, and I think we would not have had enough time to load, and we didn't even know if there's water aboard. The slave who'd asked regarded Fitbjorn as he stretched out. Why would that matter? If we wanted water, could we not have simply gone to shore and get some? It is very thirsty work to sail a carvey. We don't know these lands. The ship we took could have been recognized by anyone, and they would know. And the water is not so easy as you think to just find. Not good, clean water. You aren't a sailor or warrior, are you? What are you? I am called Halfdan, the son of a farmer, and a farmer myself, though I do practice with sticks. I had hoped to one day be a warrior. Are you all warriors, or are you not? They all merely looked around between themselves. I was, Skadhild said. It has been a long time since I fought with the blade. We're warriors, laddie. Sure enough. Even the women. But now's no time for fighting. We have to get clear of this place and find back our camp. Yes, we've rested here long enough. Let's make for the camp. All of you will come with us for now. We shall have you all at least fed and rested before the night has come. They rode together at a relaxed pace for the rest of the morning, not spending any time at gallop, and letting those weakest of them on the horses the longest. Fitbjorn spent most of the time on the ground, walking swiftly to keep up, but he was doing well. They'd take rest and watch the roads occasionally, but by midday they'd seen no one coming north up the road behind them. Someone's coming, Niels said. Hmm. Yes, I can see, Fitbjorn said. A single man was riding down the road toward them. He looked to be dressed in a traveler's cloak and a thick hood. Odd-looking type, that is, you're traveling in. Travelers, you know what they're like. The rider approached and made no signs of slowing or stopping. Should we kill him? Asked Skadhild. I want to kill someone. No idea who it is. Could be someone loyal to Harold. If asked, he'll definitely say they saw all manner of slave-looking folk coming up the road this way from the port village, Niels added. They know where we're going. No ship gone, and we took their horses. No need to kill this man, Fitbjorn said authoritatively. They went to the side of the road and let the rider go on their right side, each with a weapon still tentatively put a hand over the handles regardless. The rain started to fall then, not too strong, but sudden, and that was strange. All looked up together at the sky. Fitbjorn spent a moment feeling the cool drops on his face. It was cold enough that it should have been snow, but freezing rain fell upon them. He looked again at the coming rider and noted that he didn't seem to have come any closer since he'd last looked. He stood there, where he was now, the horses all coming to a stop behind him in a row. There was ample room for the traveler to go by them, and yet he felt a powerful urge to make more space and show more deference. Then came by them the traveler. The strange lone man rode past them in the sudden rain, grim and uncaring for the way around him. He rode down the center of the road at a relaxed trot. As he rode them by, he did spare one sidelong glance, however, and his right eye made contact with Fitbjorn. He detected a strange smile on the man's face, like he knew something that was to come and awaited it with patient glee. A knowing smile that should have been passed between longtime friends who can tell the other is arriving at a joke. The wild traveler's smirk sent a strange flash of recognition through Fitbjorn in a way he could not explain. But it made him want to laugh along to whatever that joke might be. All in the group watched the man ride away from them. His manner didn't appear to change at all, and he said not a word. Then, from the pack slung over his shoulder, a leather bag dropped to the ground. Fitbjorn immediately walked down the road and went for it. He reached down and picked up a small pouch made from fine doe skin. You lost this, he said loud, so the man could hear. No, I didn't, the man replied. Niels and Ragnar both dismounted from their mounts and walked over to the bewildered Fitbjorn. What was that? I have no idea. Queer sort of fellow. Why'd you leave the satchel back? What you reckon's in there? Fitbjorn spent a moment longer looking down the road at the man, his eyes squinting some. Why did he feel so strong recognition? He looked down to the bag. It looked rather ordinary, no special features at all. Made well and thin, with a strong leather string keeping closed the top. He pulled free the minor knot done, and the string and opened the bag, and there within were a set of rune stones, small rectangular bits of stone or bone that were each engraved with runes on them. Must have been the Galderskald, Niels said in reverie. The others looked at him, questioning. Magic? Asked Skadhild from behind them. They turned to her. That's woman's work. You men folk are too simple for Galdir. Well, he seemed not much to care. They all looked back at the rider, and he was gone. Magic, Niels replied. How strange. And he's left you a gift, White Bear. Runes are powerful things. Sight into the web of reality. I know, but I don't know how to cast them. I can teach you that. Get me some food and good drink and a warm fire. I'll teach you the runes. Fitbjorn looked to Skadhild. You're a wielder, satyr, Niels asked, incredulous. All women are. Even if only a little. Fitbjorn responded, and they all looked at him. How do you know that? Asked Skadhild. A woman told me, Fitbjorn said, using the word like he would for witch. All laughed, and he put away the runes, tying the bag to his belt and resuming his pace at the front of the line. They continued their flight until nightfall, making for as far north as they could get in a day, and returning to where they had hidden their camp. On a beach on the eastern bank of a long lake, they found the bundles of furs and blankets that they had stashed for the night. Here, finally, Niels said, coming off his horse and retrieving his pack. The late day sun still glowed over the horizon, showing light onto the lands of sheer mountain and great forest. Ragnar busied himself with the making of a fire, and all sat gratefully around it as it grew. They all sat in the sand and listened to the crackle of the flame and the lapping of the waves from the lake. The light of the fire illuminated the branches and leaves around them, and they all felt at great peace and in comfortable safety. Now tell me you have something to drink more than water. I haven't been drunk in a year, Skadhild said, looking to Fitbjorn. He tossed her a bulging mead skin, and she hefted it. This is a full belly, she said, impressed. She put the end to her mouth, but didn't take the sip she so desperately wanted. She poured out the first sip to the gods. Then she drank from it in contented gulps. Gods, she said, finally, with tears in her eyes. Thank the gods for you. We thank them the same for having found you. We've been chasing rumors and traders around for a year looking for you. I was on a farm first, for a long time. Then the winter came, and I went to a lord's hall. I have moved too much. What was the rest of the battle like? Asked Fitbjorn, with a hard edge in his words. Battle? That was a massacre. No armor on us, just running screaming at the enemy with all of our will, and other maddened by the surprise. There was no chance. Did you see Sven die? Asked Stephanos. She shook her head. No. I saw Nathan die, though. She sighed. He was with his son, that one called... I can't remember his name. The Ernallander, Ragnar said, accepting the mead from Skadhild. Whatever it was, the boy lived longer than his father, but they fought well. Nathan had his sword in his hand, the Ulfbert. Like a flash of silver lightning it flew. I saw it cleave through a shield and into a man's shoulder, cutting clean off the arm. That thing was a bit of magic on this realm. And he died, Niels asked. He died, though he didn't have to watch his son die. He killed a man with the sword and then took a spear. Then a spear took him in the chest. Low in the chest. Here. He was cut after with an axe. The boy saw his father die and went to help. I keep seeing the fight in my mind. I think I could have helped more too, but I wasn't there. None of us were. There is nothing that can be done to change the past, Fitbjorn said. No. The boy was cut down from a sword after that. I don't know who took the Ulfbert, but I would very much like to meet him someday. I lost my axe that day. That, the one you took everywhere, even to bed. Oh, White Bear. We all lost something, I say. We did, but I gained something too. Have a look here. You see this? I was going to mention that wolf's skin is massive. It's near as big as the bear. Fitbjorn laughed. Not quite so big as that. The bear skin is much larger than this. You should have seen the wolf. It was shot by Eric on that very morn when I last saw you. I went back and Eric! That ornery asshole! Gods, I miss him just as much as the rest, she interrupted. Soon again, we shall all meet in the gods' hall. We shall feast and tell love story at the table of our ancestors, Niels said, consoling. Right that is. But this skin is not all I have. I also took these teeth here. He showed a row of horrifying wolf teeth that he wore around his neck on leather cord. And the bone. I took bone and burnt it into these. He drew then the long Ulfbert he had paid a hefty sum in silver to have made at a fine and renowned blacksmith. Freya's love, Skadhild said in reverence, as she saw the weapon glitter in the firelight. Can I see it? She asked, reaching her hand forward. It is not the only one I was able to have made. We took much from the hordes, especially Olaf's share. He smiled in memory. We made 5 of these, with the bones of that wolf, the silver of our plunder. I have one, Niels and Ragnar, even Stephanos wields his foreign magic metal. The last one I have been saving. A tear came to her eye, and she put a hand to her mouth. No. Skadhild, Fitbjorn said, standing. I ask that you forgive me for taking so long to find you. The path was hard, but any foe put before you hereafter, I hope you will rest comfortable knowing that you bited them with the famous wolf. He swung the sheathed weapon out from behind him and presented it to her. Skadhild stood shakily. She was fully crying now. Fitbjorn could see by the firelight how emaciated and dirty she truly was in this moment. With great care, she took the sword from the white bear and held it delicately. Thank you, she said through the sobs. She sat down and repositioned the fur around her. Thank you so much. She leaned back, the effect of the mead showing in the satisfaction in her eyes as she clutched the Ulfbert to her. I have spent a year in sleep, doing what I am told, awaiting the power to wake me up. And here have you come. She sobbed once and leaned back to the sand. Get her a blanket, someone, Ragnar said. Fitbjorn stood and put the skin of the white bear upon her, and she nestled into the warmth. Within moments, her breathing was the soft, steady rhythm of peaceful sleep, and the others who'd been slaves decided they wanted to join with her in this. Let 'em sleep. They may do so through tomorrow too, Ragnar said, seeing them all bed down for the night. They may want to, but we'll have to keep on north. There are places we can get quiet and stay there, Fitbjorn responded. Ragnar began to remove his tunic to inspect his arm. How's that arm going to heal? Asked Stephanos. There is much blood, I see. Ragnar completed the process, and his arms were now bare. All could see the cut that had dried blood crusting around it. Aye, that's the worst of it. It'll be all well in no time. The cut didn't sever anything too dear, just bit into the muscle some. Lucky there's plenty of muscle there. He held up his arms, flexing, then winced. Better let me put the bandage on it. Better let another than you, Niels. Your hand still barely works. My hand's fine enough to bandage your meaty arm, Ragnar. Aye, well, I'd still rather someone with careful practiced knowledge of the binding. I will bind, Stephanos said, more to stop the squabbling than anything else. As this was happening, and Ragnar started grunting at the pain, Fitbjorn pulled the bag of runes from his belt and shook it some. hearing the stones and bones rattle around inside. Think you should wait for the woman? Asked Niels, seeing him. Not really. I may not know exactly what I'm doing, but not all the runes are a mystery. He untied the drawstring and pulled out one of the runes. There, in his hand, was a small gray stone with flat faces, vaguely rectangular in shape. He held it between his fingers and saw no rune on the side facing him. He turned it over to the other side. Grah! What one did you get? A lucky one, I should hope, Ragnar said. The rune stone in his hand had no symbol drawn on it, not on either side. I got the one meant for me. He showed the blank surface to the others. I think maybe you pulled the wrong one. He smirked. No, I didn't. End of the chapter. Yeah. So this is the way that part 3 is done in part 3 Viking. Every chapter is a new year. So be all thee ready for that. Yeah. Good times. Good people. Good fun. Right on. Rock and roll. Thank you all for joining in, and I will speak with you next time.